What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is another episode of Versus. This is the Shotgun Showdown. As the title suggests, it's a showdown of the shotguns to find out which one is best. Little disclaimer up front, I know I don't have every shotgun that Nerf has ever made or off-brand stuff. Also gonna let you know right now that I'm not gonna tell you one of these is actually best. The purpose of this video is to point out certain elements of these shotguns so you can make an informed decision if you wanna pick a shotgun by looking at the elements I propose and then reflecting on how you play Nerf in your Nerf war and exactly what you need out of your shotgun to try to make the best decision for you. And before we compare the shotguns, let's try to define shotgun. What am I talking about when I say shotgun? If you use a different definition, fine, but what I mean is not just that it goes like that with a pump action. This is a shotgun style priming mech, some people call it that, sure. What I'm referring to, however, is the firing and how many darts it launches with one trigger press. A single shot blaster, you press the trigger, it shoots once. A shotgun, you press the trigger once and it shoots a bunch of times. And if you're saying, hey Frank, a full auto, you press the trigger once and it shoots a bunch of darts. The difference here is kind of like, I guess, series and parallel. When you shoot full auto, it goes pew, 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 pew in sort of like a series-like way, but then when you fire a shotgun, it goes pew, shoots a bunch of darts all at once, and it's kind of parallel. That's the definition of shotgun that I'm using, and that's why something like the Double Dealer, not many people would say that's a shotgun, but it shoots two at once. Super long intro is super long and now finished, so let's quickly overview each of these blasters. Starting out with this one, this is a Roughcut. This and the Sledgefire are probably the most popular shotguns. If you ask most Nerfers, hey, name a Nerf shotgun, one of these is going to pop up quite a bit. Like in Family Feud, it would be super high on number 1 and 2. The Roughcut holds 8 darts, it's a front loader, and it shoots 2 at once, so it has 4 shots total if you shoot both at once. But this is unique in this set because you can halfway pull the trigger and it only shoots 1. This is a spring-powered blaster and you prime it like that. Next to it is the Zombiestrike Sledgefire. This is also spring-powered. To prime, you push this little button and pull down. That primes the spring and it also allows you to get to the shell. Yeah, it takes shells. It doesn't fire without the shell, so if you lose it, lay whoops, and it holds 3 darts, so it shoots 3 at one time. All the other options shoot 2 at once, so that makes it kind of unique in this set of shooting 3 at once. Over here is the Double Dealer. Not many people would say this is a shotgun, but like I said, I'm gonna call it a shotgun. It shoots 2 at once. This one is spring-powered and pump action. That's how you prime it. It feeds from both of these magazines at the same time. Pretty cool that it takes normal in-strike magazines. It's also kind of large compared to these others, and I've complained about this grip. I hate this grip. The Doomlands series, this is just a stupid design. But watch my review for that whole complaint. And I have reviews, I think, on all of these other than the Barrel Break, so you can watch those if you want my full opinion on each of them. Next is the Rival Atlas. This is in the Rival line, so it shoots the Rival balls instead of darts, which, you know, comes with different inherent properties of their flight characteristics. This is also magazine fed, feeds from up here. This is kind of like the standard Rival mag, well, more or less, not really though. This goes into the Apollo and the Zeus, which makes it convenient if you have this on your hip with one of those as your primary. Magazine holds 12, but it shoots 2 at one time, so it has 6 shots before a reload is needed. It's spring powered, you prime it like that, and it's really loud when you dry fire it. That is the Rival Atlas. Lastly is the Barrel Break. This doesn't belong here. It's pre-elite, so the performance is pretty bad, and that's why it's yellow. It's a break action similar to the Sledgefire. Push the little orange thing, pull out the barrel. That primed it right there. Then you can feed in your darts right here. 2 barrels, so you load in 2 at once. It does not take shells like the Sledgefire, so you can just put in bare darts right there. Go like that, and pew. And it shoots both on one trigger pull. There's no way to split it. That's the brief overview of all the blasters. Now let's get to the performance. A very important element in analyzing the performance of a shotgun is looking at the groupings. The groupings of a blaster in like normal single shot mode is when you fire 10 and you're holding the blaster in the same spot, how big is the range of where your darts land? A very tight grouping or a very precise blaster will shoot the darts in a very similar spot if you hold the blaster still. So if you're shooting at me and you have a grouping of this size, you're going to hit me, assuming you pull the trigger and it's aimed at the center of me. So with single shot blasters, you want a really tight group, but it gets really controversial with shotguns because there is no best group ever. And I'm gonna pull out some geometry on you because you have to look at what engagement range you prefer, what you will most likely be engaging at. If my barrel is at the top and I'm shooting downward and I'm only at a 5-degree angle or a pretty mild angle and I'm shooting here, my spread's going to be this far away. And that's going to be the spread, whatever that is. I don't have any units of measure here. But as you get further away from the barrel, it's going to continue to spread, so it keeps getting broader and broader at the further you get from the muzzle. So some blasters will shotgun out and just spray really wide, but then at 100 feet, it's just going to be so crazy wide that it's not going to be functional at all. But then if it's really tight and it's really effective at 100 feet, when it's really close to you, it's effectively like shooting one dart that happens to be a little bit bigger, so it's not really a shotgun. Lengthy explanation to try to make my groupings test more relevant so you understand what I'm testing. same. A big grouping is not better. A smaller grouping is not better for shotguns. It's all about the range and your intended targets. If you're just shooting at a single entity and that's all you want to engage, you're not going to engage like a zombie horde where a bunch of people are sitting next to each other and you want to be able to just shoot all of them all at once. So if it's only as big as my body at that range, you might hit me, you might hit this guy, but if you launch a bunch of darts and you have a 10-foot spread, you could very likely hit a bunch of people. Well, of course, we're limited on how many projectiles, which is 2 darts per shot other than the Sledgefire. So I'll show you the groupings test. For this, I just shot at a mat. It happens to have little 1-inch blocks, and the range was a little over 20 feet. Rough cut, elite darts. Sledgefire, elite darts. Double Dealer, elite darts. Oh, jam. Double Dealer should include toast because it jams so often. Doo-doo-ch. Rival Atlas, Nerf balls. Balls. Barrel Break, elite darts. Want to reiterate, no grouping size is best. It's all about your engagement range and what type of target you're going to be shooting at. But my comments, the Sledgefire had a very broad range. So it could open up and hit, if you're shooting at multiple people, you might hit multiple people. If you're shooting at one person, and they're like zigzagging back and forth, you could probably hit them. But it's also so broad that if you're shooting the Sledgefire at me, it could be spreading out so far that I go in between your darts, which I would argue personally is too far. That's just how I approach the shotgun for Nerf though. But then there's the Rival Atlas, which has like a 2-inch grouping, which is just ridiculously tight. So if I'm engaging at 20 feet, I'm pretty much wasting one of the balls. If you're shooting at a single entity or shooting at multiple, it doesn't really matter. 2 balls very close to each other is effectively like 1. With firearms, and if you're trying to like knock stuff down and the kinetic energy transfer or the stopping power, the kill power, that's a completely different argument. For Nerf, it doesn't matter at all unless you happen to be playing a 2-hit kills game type, and then you could actually just kill somebody with 1 shot, hitting them with 2 balls and then immediately KOing them, which would be freaking hilarious. But other than that, I would almost argue the Atlas grouping is too tight because it's not really a shotgun. It's like an Apollo with half the capacity or half the firing capacity. Not like balls, but you only have 6 shots because you're shooting 2 at once out of 12. So what the heck does the groupings mean at all when you try to shoot at something other than a door? Because that door, you didn't hear what it said about my mother. It deserved that. I'll take that door down, man. Yeah, I see you looking at me. I'm not crazy. Okay, maybe a little. But for this test, I'm gonna shoot at some cups. Let go, let go. Boom, rough cut, elite darts. Let's do it. That counts as a hit, even though it didn't fall over. Let's try some Koosh Jin 3 darts. I wasn't aiming for that one. That's so satisfying. Sledgefire, elite darts. Already losing ammo. That went through the cups. Sadly, that counts. Not editing reload, so you can see how slow it actually is to reload. That was depressing. Oh, moving to Koosh darts. Double Dealer, elite darts. counts, that counts. Moving to koosh darts. Barrel Break Elite darts. That's it for the barrel break. I'm not loading 2 at a time anymore. No, 1 target, I'm out. No! How much faith do I have in the Atlas? Let's put in 2 balls, 1 shot. Let's see if I can get it. So you saw the groups, you saw the shoot. I'm gonna go over the pros and cons of each of these blasters. These are my personal pros and cons, just my opinion kinda. Starting with the rough cut. First, it's really small, especially compared to all of these. If you're running the shotgun as a secondary, this would be the easiest blaster in my opinion out of all of these to throw on a sling and then put on your hip. Whoops. It's gonna be a lot less plastic flopping around smacking into your leg, because that stuff bothers me when I'm running. The power is also good, you know, the performance, it shoots pretty hard. And lastly, unique to this group, you can actually shoot 1 at a time if you don't need to shoot 2 and be a shotgun. Little pro tip, if you think your rough cut's broken and you can only shoot 2 at once, try to put more finger into the trigger guard. If you're using just the tip, it's really hard to only pull once. I just pulled both because it's tricky. If you shove your finger all the way into the trigger guard, you have a little bit more control, and it's a lot easier to hit both of them. Especially when you're getting shot at and you're rushing and stuff, the dexterity required is a little fine. So just shove it all the way in there, and then you should be able to do it fine. Pro tip over. Here's the Sledgefire. First pro, it shoots 3 at once, which is more than all of those. More darts in the air, generally speaking, means you have a better probability of striking your opponent. Next, shells are fun. Yay! And the breech opener is fun. You know, it's tactical. Well, I don't know about tactical. Maybe like 200 years ago, this was considered tactical. You know, if you're just goofing around and you want to like entertain yourself by using the blaster itself rather than like shooting the blaster, you know, it's fun. It's entertaining to play with. Cons of the Sledgefire. It has shells and it's a breech loader. Shells are annoying because if you're running around and you drop this, then you can no longer like load the blaster. I mean, obviously you have more, but then you're down. It takes more dexterity to do this while you're running, while you're getting shot at. It's more thought. Something like a turret or a front loader is a lot easier. And the breech loading is just kind of weird. It's slow. The rate of fire is pretty poor. This out of all of these would be my least favorite to be like a primary. If someone said you can only pick 1 gun and somebody gave me this, I'd be a little disappointed. It would just be so obnoxious, and then you're reloading the shells themselves and then shoving them in super slow. That is the Sledgefire to the Double Dealer. The magazines are a huge pro because you can change your capacity. You can put in 2 35-round drums if you wanted, which is just crazy awesome capacity. And if you have preloaded magazines on your side, you can like quickly switch them out, which is great. Next pro, the performance is decent. You know, it's not fantastic when you directly compare it to an Elite blaster, but as far as shotguns go, it shoots pretty hard and the groups are pretty nice. Cons, the width with the magazines is really wide. I wouldn't really like this as a primary, so if you wanted to sling it and put it on your hip, that's a lot of bulk. You will absolutely smack that into your hip repeatedly. If you try to go through any narrow space or you're walking near people, you're gonna bang into them and that's gonna get awkward. Next con, this grip, man. I whined about this in my review. The length of pull here, it's tight, cramped, and just obnoxious. Death to this grip, man, I hate it. Oh, Coop, you're an adult, it's not made for you. Hey, I went over this in my review, bro. You can have it good for everyone. You can, it's possible. We have the technology. I mean, the technology is on the table. Like, all of these grips are fine. And the last con, it jams, like a lot. And this is actually not my first double dealer. This one's my second one because during the filming of this video, I had a, let's call it a catastrophic failure. Is that, I think I got it on video.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Yeah. Perhaps a little bit of an overreaction. Just a little bit. Locks try to slow you down, and I gotta go fast, brah. I gotta go fast all the time, so when you try to restrict me, I smash you. I hate how much it jams. I'm sure if you take out the locks, it'll work wonderfully, but I haven't done that yet. Ugh. That concludes the Double Dealer to the Barrel Break. Pros. I'm a pirate. That's the only pro. Cons: performance, reload speed, maximum capacity, overall usability, pretty much everything. Yeah, I think pretty much everything covers it. Just everything. This blaster, I think, is best used for cosplay. If you want to look a particular way and you're dressing up as a pirate, Captain Jack Sparrow, or you just want a flintlock-looking blaster, sure. But if you're trying to shoot even if you're shooting targets, I would not recommend this. Definitely not people. Just it's not really good at anything at all. I feel like a total jerk because most blasters have some purpose, but you know, it looks cool on a wall, and mine doesn't even look cool on a wall because it's all broken down. I got it at a thrift store. That is the Barrel Break, joke of a blaster, to the Rival Atlas. Pros: it shoots really hard. Rival blasters generally shoot harder than the dart guns. It goes over 90 FPS on average, which is fast. Of course, that also comes with the boosted range. Second, it's really accurate, and the groupings are really tight. So if you need to double tap somebody with one trigger press, boom, done. The Atlas wins. Next, it takes magazines, which is great. And just like the Double Dealer, it takes magazines that are acceptable like in a primary. So if you're running a Zeus or an Apollo in the Rival line, it takes the same mag. So if you want to run that as your normal standard blaster and then have this as a shotgun on your hip, you could have a bunch of one type of magazine and very quickly and swiftly change from blaster to blaster, which is pretty cool. And of course, it makes reloads faster, assuming you have bonus mags. Cons: I think this is a little bit too large and kind of floppy to use as a dedicated secondary. If that's bouncing around on my hip, it's a little just big and heavy. I'm really comparing that to the Roughcut. Compared to like the Double Dealer, I wouldn't even consider that. I could use the Atlas at times, but most of the time I feel like it would flop too much. And to the next con, the groupings, in my opinion, are actually too tight, and you could say it's too precise or too accurate. And that's really just because we're comparing shotguns. Two balls that land effectively in the same spot really isn't more effective than just shooting one and having double the capacity, like with an Apollo. Again, groupings, nobody's right, everybody's pretty much wrong all the time. That's how that works, especially on the internet. We just all yell at each other. Really broad groupings aren't best, really tight groupings aren't best, but two that land on each other, it's really barely even a shotgun. If I'm engaging a group, I can still only hit one target. If I'm shooting at one person, I'm not really increasing the probability of striking that target. But like I said, mostly jokingly, if you're playing a game type where you have 2 lives, you could immediately kill them. Although when I play those game types, you still have to respawn. So if you get like double tapped or overshot, it's not like you're dead completely. But you should make an exception just so the Atlas has a place. But in my opinion, that's a big con because they actually shoot too close to each other. Overview, firing, groupings, pros and cons. That's pretty much everything on these blasters. To my conclusion, which is the best shotgun? I believe I mentioned in the intro, none of them. It's all about what you want in your shotgun, except for the Barrel Break. That's just bad, and just bad. Stop being you. You're bad at everything. I feel like such a jerk right now. What if you said that to a kid, man? Wow, what a hurtful thing to say. I feel like I'm in the dark section of the YouTube comments with all those haters and just super angry people with way too much time on their hands crawling in the comment section. You're bad at everything. You're wrong. I can't be the only one who envisions these people typing like that. But super serial, I don't think anyone's best. What would I personally prefer for how I approach the shotgun class as a secondary? The Roughcut. If somebody said, walk up to this table and pick a blaster, we're gonna have a Nerf war, I'd pick the Atlas, even though it's, in my opinion, not an effective shotgun. An effective Nerf blaster, but not an effective shotgun. I really do like the Sledgefire, the performance is great. The thing that turns me off of it is just its size. It's just too long for what it does. It only shoots the 3. The Roughcut is so close and you don't have to worry about shells. It just seems like kind of a nuisance in a fast-paced Nerf game. But the Sledgefire is way more like entertaining and fun to play with because there's shells, so that's definitely a pro-con. The Double Dealer I freaking hate, and it's really more of a primary style blaster because of its size. I mean, these horizontal mags are just so bulky and in your face that you have no hope of throwing that around your hip. You're just, yeah, you have to carry it as your primary, and then you're reloading a ton because you have 2 mags and you're going through all your mags on your gear, you know. It has its role, but this grip is also a massive turnoff, as I whine about repeatedly in my review and even in this video. So I don't like this blaster at all. I wouldn't use that. Maybe right for some people though, just like the Deploy. We have a special place for you. It's in the corner. Do you want to go stand in the corner? Go stand in the corner. Like my door. I see you still. Look at me, door. I'll take you down. Boom, best Nerf blaster that I'd pick, Rival Atlas, best shotgun, or for me, Roughcut. The purpose of this video is not to tell you which one to go and buy and which one is objectively best, only to point out the certain elements that I consider when approaching the shotgun class for Nerf, so you can make an informed decision for your Nerf games, your Nerf playstyle, and sort of what you want. But if you pick the Barrel Break, you're wrong. I know there's one guy that uses a deploy on the reg, and the Centurion, when he feels like it, is like, no man, the Barrel Break's the best. I love it. Like 100,000-ish people will watch the video. There has to be one, and I'm looking right at you, bro. Yeah, you. Go stand in the corner with my door. Oh, I feel like one of those dudes in the dark part of the... Oh, I feel so mean. I'll stop now. I'm rambling. That's the versus, the Shotgun Showdown. Isn't that a fun alliteration? Shotgun Showdown, yeah. That's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment in the section below with what your favorite shotgun is. Like I said, I didn't cover all the shotguns, just a few to point out a few elements, but what is your favorite? That's the video. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, or at least were entertained by me shooting cups. That's it. Stay tactical.